making the most of your training, making the most. How do I make the most of it? So, in order to really understand this, we need to step back and say, well, what is it that I'm doing? What is it that I'm doing? And
Mhm.
the three programs that we offer, sometimes it can get a little bit confusing, but the three things that either some of you do all three, some of you just do one thing, some do a couple things, but I just want to give you an overview. The programs are, the first one is Inner Armor Resilience. And that is the program you do through the Inner Armor app, where you're working on breathing, heart rate variability, skin conductance, skin temperature, and we also do vision therapy in there, unlimited vision therapy, which is a great feature. Just that alone, in some cases, can be up to $600 a month to go see somebody to do that. And that's just one little phase of our program, which is available for you in the precision side. And then in Inner Armor Focus, you have power, which is all about your breathing and your heart. And then you have focus, which is about skin temperature and skin conductance. That's the Inner Armor Resilience. Sometimes we refer to that as bio, because it has a lot to do with biofeedback, but that's your biofeedback and vision. And then you have Inner Armor Neuro. For those of you in the neuro program, that is the Divergence app that you use, which eventually, within a few weeks here, will all be rolled into one Inner Armor where you choose neuro or resilience. But neuro is the neurofeedback. That's the EEG that's giving us direct feedback on the brain. So the highest level I can go for change is the human brain. Okay. I can try to change my thoughts down here and feel a certain way. I can change my environment to change my behaviors. What we do in resilience is try to change the physiological, which affects the overall behaviors and emotions and thoughts. But the brain at the highest level, the brain at the highest level is what's addressed in Inner Armor Neuro, the neurofeedback. And then depending on which program you're in, you have available to you. We do a lot of this coaching just kind of randomly as we send you text and different pieces of information, and you get your charts and all that kind of stuff. Everybody gets a base level of that, but you also have available some people to be able to get a coach to work with you every week. And if you don't know how to get into the coaching calendar, which is a great resource to just sign up with what fits your schedule. We have coaches available to you every week for some of you that are in the coaching side of the program to answer questions that are much more in depth if you need those. But let's go to, now that we know what the programs are, let's talk about, changing the brain. So when we're working in resilience and neuro, we're trying to change or work with the brain to make it more resilient and stronger. And with that is an underlying concept that my brain can get stronger. Okay. And that's something that we have to believe. So if you went to elementary school, you went to high school, college, your parents had an understanding that your brain could get stronger, right? They just didn't leave you in a box when you were born. They taught you things because the belief that we all have is that the brain can get stronger. And I know that scientifically. And everything that I do is based on my understanding that the brain can get stronger. But let's look at two primary ways. They're not the only ways that the brain changes. How do you change the brain? Okay. So one is you can mask certain things through chemicals. So I can drink caffeine, I can drink alcohol, and those liquids are certain chemicals that actually do something to my brain and change. In the case of caffeine, it blocks my adenosine receptors so that I don't get sleepy. But over time, the adenosine still builds up and eventually crashes. In alcohol, that may be a way to sedate myself or get to sleep, but it's masking the brain's functioning through chemicals. Okay. And the thing about our current medical environment, in the last 50 years, we have become really good at finding subtle nuances, different medicines, some extreme ways to change the brain through chemicals. The problem is it's just a temporary change. Once the chemical wears off, it has a certain half-life, what happens? We're right back to where we started. We haven't really fixed anything. So I can have somebody that's taking an antidepressant for 25 years and that goes away and the underlying look of the brain stays the same if I'm not trying to do anything else besides just chemically altering. We've become very accustomed to thinking that's the only way to deal with things, but you wouldn't do a lot of the things that you do if you didn't believe there was another way, right? You created a profession, or you went and became something in a profession. You became very good at that. We do different things because we know there's more than just chemicals, right? So the other way the brain changes is it learning through conditioning, okay, through repetitive behavior. And this, if you take anything away, this is one I want you to take away, okay, is your brain at any stage of your life is a learning machine. Its greatest capability that it can do is learn, 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 learn. And you might just be thinking about that 10 to 15% that's conscious learning, but your brain's also doing this other 85 to 90% of unconscious learning all the time. 98.6, your body temperature. Your brain is learning how to adjust every pore on your skin and every organ in your body to keep you right at 98.6. I mean, it's so cool. It's always adjusting. That's not some pill I take to make me regulate, thermoregulate. That's the brain's unbelievable capacity. My ability to eat an apple and drink a glass of water and turn it into energy is a mirror image of the brain always learning and adjusting and making things happen. Okay. But we're learning things all the time. And that's what we're doing at Royer Neuroscience and Inner Armor is we're leveraging the brain's greatest ability, which is to learn. We leverage learning. And that's what your training is. It's all about learning. Okay. So let's just kind of give an examples of attention. Okay. What's the chemical side of attention and focus? If I give you enough amphetamine, Ritalin, Concerta, Adderall, caffeine, you will pay attention, but you really haven't learned to pay attention. So there are brain waves in your brain that deal with attention, that let you pay attention, that we can actually strengthen through conditioning so that you don't need that chemical to focus. 82% of the people that come to us on ADHD meds, we're able to get them completely off their medicines or at least less than 50% because the brain has a much more powerful ability to learn than it does to be chemically altered. Here's another one, mood, okay? I'm not opposed to medicines and they're important that we use them in certain situations, but I also have to be learning and dealing with the brain waves such as the low alphas and the high betas that at the core address my mood and not just chemically alter them, but through neurofeedback, through biofeedback, try to teach the brain how to manage mood over time. And sometimes it's a combo of both, okay? Wow, sleep, right? Sleep. Can we learn to sleep better? Can we learn to get to sleep easier? Can we learn to stay awake? I get the business guy who tells me, well, I just wake up 3 or 4 times a night and that's just kind of normal. That's the way it is, right? And I'm like, no, that's not normal. Okay. That is not what you were meant to do, but you can become normalized to that. And that's kind of the negative side of the brain's ability to learn is that in that learning, it adapts. And many of the things that we do that are counterproductive are negative things that we're learning. And so we're trying to work around that to get the positive learning. Okay. So all that to bring us to here. Okay. So I need you to understand this is not a pill. This is like physical therapy. This is like training. This is conditioning. And this is rooted in 40 years of research that people have been doing this way before I ever got here. If you ever want to listen to a great podcast, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, where I talk about the people who came before, the Nobel Prize winners that actually set us up to be able to do this technology today. It's not Royer, it's people before me, Pavlov, Skinner, Thorndike, these people that carried the torch for us. And now we have great technology that lets us teach the brain how to focus. So here, how do we create an environment for learning? Okay, and then we're going to I have a special guest that's going to come and talk to us about what to do actually in your session. I know you guys are really anticipating this special guest, but before I do, creating an environment for learning. So let's just think about if I had a second grader and I wanted to teach them how to read at a certain level, or let's say a first grader, would I take them to the lunchroom and have them learn in the lunchroom? Probably not. Or I wouldn't be teaching them something while they're in the middle of a game at recess, right? Or it's really loud, or it was late at night and they're tired and hungry, right? You got kids at home, not the best time to do homework, right? So we know creating an environment for learning, of course, but are we ever thinking about that about our session? Because your session is a learning machine. You're getting tech that's leveraging the brain's ability to learn. And we need to use that tech no different than learning anything in the classroom. So here's a few things. One is sleep. Super important. And that's maybe one of the things we're working on with you. So that's kind of, they're both going hand in hand. But if you have choices to change your sleep environment and to sleep well, what makes you learn better, what makes neurofeedback go better, what makes biofeedback go better, the better you're sleeping will help. And it will also improve that. So it's kind of got this relationship where it's kind of sharing that. Nutrition, really important to, not go into your session hungry, right? And be thinking about things from that may be affecting inflammation, like omega-3 index. That's a great thing that if anybody ever wants that measured, that's something we can do for you, okay? Which has to do with your inflammatory processes. But other things, your balance of carbohydrates and proteins and fats and how important that is. Decrease distractions. I kind of alluded to that with the second grader trying to learn, the first grader trying to learn. But just think about the room you're in, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person that when I read a book, I have to like be in a quiet environment. Like I can't do it when everybody's talking in the kitchen and all kinds of stuff's going on. Because I go back and I reread it like 6 times to try to remember it, right? I'm just one of those people, like if I'm gonna read, it needs to be quiet. Well, if I'm gonna do my neurofeedback or my biofeedback, it's the same principle. I'm learning something and I want to decrease distractions, be aware of light, those kind of things. Be comfortable, okay? Not uncomfortable. The other thing we want to think about is not rush. Try to create some space and time for that. A routine. Routine is really important, especially you have to understand that we're getting your final number from your cool down. So that's very important that your cool down is done well. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, shoot, I'm almost done. Great. I got to move on to the next thing. And so you might feel rushed or you're not in that routine of giving yourself space and time. And this is what I want you to think about is your brain and body has done so much for you to make you successful. It's done so much for you and you can't help but give back to it in this situation. So make it a routine. It helps us on the data that if you're kind of doing it in a certain routine, then when I see your cool down, it's done kind of in the same environment. It isn't that big of a problem, but I'd like to kind of have them as close as possible. And then always be doing your breathing. Okay. Always be working on your breathing as we do that. Okay. So let me go ahead and I'm going to bring our special guest speaker in to share with us today. And here she is, the other half.
Okay, all the way from the other side of the room.
Yes.
Come.
The other half of Royer Neuroscience, Nurse Amy, who Amy and I have worked together for many, many years and been married many, many years, but
Yep.
my business partner in Royer Neuroscience, Nurse Amy.
Okay, it's great to see you all and have you join us. We were hoping that you'll glean a couple little things from today that can help you with your session. So as I was listening to Doc, I actually started laughing because pretty much 50% of what I was going to tell you, he already said. So I must be doing it right, I guess. So anyway, and also some of what I'm going to say is like mothery because that's just kind of where I generally land, and we all can use a little good mothery advice sometimes. So here we go. So for my training, I like to keep my headset like close by, something convenient, so that I can just grab it right away because I'm trying so hard to set myself up for success and a chance to do as much training as possible. And I understand real life and it comes at you fast. And if I had to run around looking for my kit and gather wires and things like that, then that's not going to get done. So keep it close by. I do have a few friends that train. They literally have a space in the house and they leave their equipment just sitting right there ready to go. So that is awesome. You always want your charger cord. Keep an eye on that percentage of battery because they don't run out very fast, but if it does run out during your session, it is frustrating. So avoid that by charging it up. And also the iPads, they do run out of battery. So keeping your stuff charged up. So I had a list of set yourself up for success. And Doc already said so many of these, but he didn't say one that is so mothery of me, which is to go to the bathroom, because the last thing you want to do is be sitting through your session and have to go to the bathroom the whole time. So it's kind of like when your mom wouldn't let you put your snow pants on until you went to the bathroom. But anyway, so that I've written down also, look for good content to use for your session because you need something to motivate you to come back to it. So I love a lot of the documentaries, but I've heard somebody recently talking about some kind of goofball YouTube videos we have on there, which I haven't watched yet, but I told her I was going to try to watch one of those and see kind of what that experience was like for me for training. So pick and choose. There isn't a right or wrong, but don't let training get boring. Like there's zero reason for your training to ever be boring. If you need us to load a new video up for you, please, please tell us. As I was telling my parents, YouTube is like an unending library of things to watch and learn from. So make sure that you choose content that you're really going to enjoy because you want it to draw you in. Doc already talked about preventing interruptions from your space. So for me, that means putting my phone out of hand's reach because otherwise mid training, I will be getting a buzz on there and I'll be looking at it. Then I'll be thinking about that while I'm training. And that's not where we want to be for the learning, the best learning, as Doc said. I also love to be in a comfortable spot in a comfortable surroundings. Usually that means that the two dogs are blocked from coming to visit me during that time. And that's another good thing to set up for success. Then here's how I run my session. There isn't a right or wrong, but I will say flat out, your neurofeedback session should be an enjoyable experience. I think of it as a gift that I give myself. And if you ever have a neurofeedback session that you just finished up and you're like tearing your hair out, we did something wrong. So we would want to know about that and try to prevent that from happening. So occasionally I'll run into a few tech issues, which usually my technician here will be able to help me out. But usually the tech is faithful and good. And so what I do for my session for the warm up, in my mind, I'm trying to put myself into neutral. Now, this can be rather difficult because I usually come in hot, like I've come in from somewhere. I need to get this done in a half an hour. And so I'm saying to myself, like, just go to neutral in a half an hour. So honestly, I really need those 2 minutes of deep breathing to slow my machine down and allow myself to just focus on the training session. So I love the warm up for that reason, because it's my very obvious time where I can literally feel like 6 or 7 things jumping into my brain space and I'm saying no, and I'm putting up like a little buffer around my brain. Then when I go to the training session, I totally think about if like I took my brain to the gym And my big job, all I got to do now is give my brain oxygen, and I need to let my brain work out. So if it was like the thought of putting my brain on a treadmill or elliptical or whatever, I'm not going to be like getting in the way of the treadmill or the elliptical working. I'm just supplying the oxygen and I'm letting my brain go to work. So during the training session, your brain is working whether you think it is or not. And a lot of times I get a little sleepy and I think my brain isn't working, my brain is checking out, but my brain is working so hard to stay awake and keep interacting with this neurofeedback. So we used to talk about a certain number of feedbacks that the brain would be getting. Do you remember the
It's
number?
about 20,000 in 30 minutes.
In a 30-minute session, like, and I'm thinking of sticker charts that we might have done with our kids growing up, and I never got to 20,000 stickers on a chart, but this is what's happening second by second during that training session. So I just wanna be still, get myself out of the way, and let my brain get that most out of those minutes of working out. Then when the gong sounds and it's over, and I'm moving on to the cool down, Doc already mentioned it. This is the space where we are actually measuring the numbers to put on your progress graphs. So for me, this is where I'm thinking in my mind, now I'm going to show what the training has done for me. So I'm going to try to stay in that neutral, going to keep breathing. Another way I kind of think about it is, say I was training for a race, all that training is those 24 minutes, and then the cool down is actually when I went and did the race to see like, oh, how did my training help me, and how, like, then we compare those apples to apples on the progress graph. During the cool down, I fight to stay calm and in neutral because my brain and my body is ready to move on to the next thing. So this is a great time to kind of figure out, like, learn about my own awareness, because I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, oh, that's almost funny. Like I'm sitting here and my brain is out the door right now. But just trying to say, no, it's not. It's still right here. And we're going to do the breathing. And sometimes I will do slow blinking just to give myself something to do. Some people like to close their eyes. If I close my eyes, I start thinking about a lot of other things. So I do like keep my eyes open, but I might just take my eyes off the screen, look out the window, and be doing the deep breathing, some slow blinking, and just trying to keep my facial muscles really relaxed so we're not picking up on extra muscular activity. But that is kind of how a session goes for me. Um, I told you at the beginning, I count it as like a gift that I can give to myself each day, but I have a last little gem to share with you. I was listening to a health guy that I really like, and he was talking about change and how we go after change. And he had two words. One is motivation, and the other is inspiration. And he said that within his practice of trying to help people change, motivation is good, but it comes to an end. So motivation is things like, I'm going to get X number of sessions, or I'm going to get this number or that number. And it's kind of like the what about what you're doing. So I call it my what. So like I have goals to train like 5 sessions a week. So that's kind of my motivation, my what. But he said that to have permanent change, or to have a better staying power of change, inspiration is really the thing you're looking for. And with him, the inspiration, the way he described it, is my why. Like, why am I even doing this in the first place? And I love the difference of that, my what and my why, because the my why has so much to do with more than just me, but also like my community and what's around me, what's my purpose, what's my calling. So like my motivation, I already said, is, a certain number of sessions a week I'd like to get in, but my inspiration is about being a wife and a mother and a healthy person, and being able to continue to do the things that I love to do. Though it's more like a belief versus just like a check mark on a page. So take that with you, think about it. Maybe you can think about it during your cool down, your motivation or your inspiration, and that's it. I hope that helps somebody.
That was very good. Very, very good. Okay. Well, let's see if we have any questions. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
That was really good. And Amy has some of the best brain numbers out there, but that does not come just by chance. She's been training for
Thousands of years.
thousands of years. No, I'm going to say since we started in 2000, the neurofeedback 2004, so probably 20 years. And we could give you stories about our entire family and our 4 kids and how the program over different stages in our family, in our personally, but as a couple, has a huge ability to make us present and I think more complete people. But she definitely doesn't just talk about it, she does it. So that's awesome. So let's go ahead and what kind of questions we got, Steph? Do we have any?
Well, we had some commentary on also making sure that if we could have other videos available outside of just, I think the content, if we could add some cooking or home design ones to the potential videos, it'd be helpful. So
Okay.
I
yes,
love it.
maybe yes. And then yeah, Sherry asked, so I was told warm up not needed or counted in our session, so to not do it. Is this correct?
My preference is yes, if you are up against it, if you're up against it and you just don't have 24 minutes, then if you're going to take one thing away, you have 2 options. You can take your warm up away, or you can hit the X button during your training. Now, don't start doing this, okay? But it'll save the session incomplete. So you could say, I'm 12 minutes in, I got to get running, but I want to leave time for my cool down. So you can X out and it'll still save the session at 12 minutes, and that's fine. But then what you want to do is always leave time for the cool down. We need the cool down for data. The reason we use that for data that way is we don't want to collect data based on when you're doing training, because everybody's content's different and your content will be different. You know, you might be watching cooking and design on one day, and then you might be watching Formula One on the next. And so that's going to make a big difference. So cool down is the great equalizer for us, and that's very important. There's no reinforcers happening during cool down. You may have noticed that unless you have some huge movement, it's probably not blurring or the sound going away, and that's because we've turned off the reinforcer so it doesn't hit you and it just takes you at a stable spot. Any other questions, Steph? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I think this is a follow-up to kind of the same concept, but the question was, when we do the last 2 minutes and are trying to be calmer than we are in training, is it giving an accurate account of our brain?
Yes, as long as we're trying to do the same thing at your cool downs, that's helpful for us. At the end of the day, it's kind of like exercise, and if you were to measure your last mile or, you know, how many calories you burned, it's more important that you did the exercise. And there's many neurofeedback companies out there that you don't even know any data or any number. We try to include data because data is very important to us, but that is not, if you have a bad day or a number drops, or maybe you're not trending in the right way for a month, that's not a bad indicator. That just is showing us where you're at, and it could be something else going on in your life. So just try to do your cool down the same if you can, because you're trying to get the data for you. Now, what's going to start to happen in a few weeks, just so you guys know that, you're going to start to see the new version of the app where you'll actually see your numbers right at the end of the session, and you'll see the last 10 sessions pull up right in front of you. And so that will give you a good idea, like, hey, I want to try doing this during my cool down, see what that does. Next day, I'm going to try it this way. Wow, I really got my high beta down via that, because you might not always know what that is. So it does give you time to be a little bit experimental, especially when you have the data that you'll start to get in front of you. Okay? Anything else, Steph?
No, I think that's it, but I do have that Margaret and Sherry, it looks like you both are interested in the book, so we'll get a copy of the book shipped out to you. If anyone else wants it, just feel free to put it in the chat, but we'll sending those books out to you shortly.
Great. And I saw some people kind of came in a little bit late. That's not a problem. We are on again at 7. So you can maybe pick up the beginning up till the point that you joined in. Okay. We count it a privilege to work with each one of you, and we consider it kind of a sacred privilege to not just work with you, but to work with the brain, which is the most wondrous creation in the universe. And that we have the opportunity to do that together as a couple is a real privilege and an honor. And we want to do anything that we can to make this a positive, life-changing experience for you. Okay? Thanks, guys. See y'all.
Thank you.